Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to go over Google Forms and Google Sites. I am your trainer Courtney Bell. And for those of you that were not able to attend our previous webinars, I just want to give you a quick overview of the GoToWebinar interface. So you all are muted by default. Now I do want to encourage you to ask questions. So if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand using this raise hand icon. You can then either ask questions using your microphone and speakers or dial in using a telephone and an audio pin. There is a second way to ask questions, and that is using the question pane box, where you can simply just type in your question. Now, I do want to do a quick audio test to make sure that everybody can hear and see my screen. So if you can hear me loud and clear and see my screen, go ahead and hit that raise hand icon for me. Perfect. I see a lot of hands going up. Glad to hear it. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to lower those hands and we'll go ahead and get started. So our objective in today's webinar, you all are going to receive an overview of a variety of basic features, including key demonstrations, in order to use Google Forms and Google Sites. So the first thing we're going to go over is Google Forms, and Google actually just revamped Forms as of a couple days ago. So you guys are going to actually get to see the new version of Forms. We're going to go over creating a form. We're going to go over adding questions to your form. And this is brand new. They just made it to where you can use the real-time collaboration on Google Forms, which means you can edit a form and create a form with a colleague at the same time. Then we're going to go ahead and go over sending your form. So just as a reminder, if we wanted to get to Forms, we're simply going to select Drive. As you can see, Drive opened in a new tab because I'm using the Google Chrome browser. So in order to go ahead and create a form, we're going to select Create and then Form. So forms are similar to surveys or questionnaires. They're online based, so you can share quickly with others. Once you share a form, you're going to get those results instantaneously. So forms are really great for customer satisfaction, even employee feedback, or even voting. So let's go ahead and create a form. So we're just going to select Get Started. This is just letting us know that Google Forms is brand new. So as you can see, we can give our form a title. And then we can choose any of these themes. Now, Google is constantly coming out with new themes. So I would expect, since they're revamping Forms right now, that we're going to see a lot more themes coming. So let's go ahead and we will just pick a nice, simple theme and select OK. So we can see we have our name right here at the top, and our name is going to appear on the form. You can see we can then add a form description. So we can go ahead and just give a nice little description or message of what our survey fillers or form fillers need to do. You can see that right away we're going to have one question already up for us. And there's a lot of different question types. So you can see we can do our question title, help text to help us fill out the form, and then the question type. So let's take a look at our types. We have text, paragraph, multiple choice, checkboxes, choose from a list, scale, and grid. So I know I learn better by doing, so let's go ahead, let's fill out our sample form, and let's go through some of these different question types. So we're going to go ahead and just do a text. And you can see here we can make this a required question. So I'm going to ask, what is your name? And we are going to make this required. Once I'm done with this question, I can simply select Done. So you can see we've got our question. If we need to edit the question, we can simply select the pencil. We can duplicate the question, or we can delete the question. Let's go ahead and add another item. And let's go ahead and just do multiple choice. You can see we can just click or we can select add other. So now let's go ahead and demonstrate a grid question. So once we go ahead and get this form filled out, we're going to go over how to share the form and some other different options as well. So I'm just going to quickly type this in. That way you guys can get a good visual of what forms are. And let's go ahead and add one more question. We'll go ahead and do scale. So now that we've got our questions filled out, I want to go ahead and talk about these training settings at the top. You can see here I have checked required Dido training login to view this form. What this means is that only people in my organization can fill out this form. So if we're going to be sending this form to people that are not within the FSEG.net organization, we're going to want to go ahead and uncheck this. This is going to make this available to people outside of our domain. Next, we can go ahead and automatically collect the username. This works really well if you were, say, doing tests and you have the ability, then I have what's your name. You could then fill out the test for, like, say, somebody else. So you can, if you are utilizing that for ever, like doing tests, you are able to select automatically collect respondents' training username. And that will make it to where they can't get around the what is your name question. But that's normally more for like if you're using this for an education purpose. So since this is just to simply collect data, I'm going to go ahead and have these unchecked. Then if we go to the bottom, we can see that this is the confirmation page. So basically when they submit this form, they're going to receive a message saying your response has been recorded. We can then publish and show a link to the results of this form. So once they've filled out the form, we can allow them to then see the results. Or we can also allow the responders to edit responses after submitting. So once again, if you're doing this for test purposes, might not be the best thing to allow people to go ahead and edit their responses. But if it's just a survey and they make a mistake, you can definitely allow them just to go back in and refill out the form. So then going to the top, you can see that we're easily able to change our theme. But let's go ahead and talk about choose response destination. So what this means is when we receive those instantaneous results, we can choose where we want these to go. Now, by default, it's going to create a new spreadsheet where your results are kept. You'll be able to see the answers or the responses come in right away on that spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and allow them to create a new spreadsheet. But you can see also we can keep the responses only in forms. Now, when we go to spreadsheets, we actually are able to see graphs and charts of our results that give us that visual representation of our results. So I like to keep mine in spreadsheets. So I'm going to go ahead and create. You can see it's setting up my spreadsheet right now. And if we wanted to see an example of what our form's going to look like before we go ahead and send it out, we can simply select View Live Form. So we can see when I do send this out, this is a sample of what our form is. This is an example of our grid question, an example of our scale question. So you can see they're nicely laid out and organized. You can see we can simply select edit form again, or we can just go back simply next to the form. You can see here we have 0 responses. This is because we have not set it out yet. So let's go ahead, let's share out the form. I'm going to share the form with some of my colleagues just so you guys can see an example of those results coming in. So you can see we can simply give them a link for the form, or we can go ahead and just as we did in Google Drive on our documents and spreadsheets, we can actually type in their email addresses. Same as when we were sharing before, we can go ahead and give a sample custom message. And I can simply go ahead and send. Now it's going to let me know that I'm sending it to people outside of my Dido training ID. That is fine. And remember, we unchecked to where people will be able to view the form and fill out the form without being a member of our domain. You can see here I have included the form in the email. Now I do want to point that out. If I am including the form in the email, they're not going to see the theme of our form. They're just going to be able to fill it out right from within the email. This can be nice if they are, on the road and they just need to quickly type it in the email address. Otherwise, you can go ahead and uncheck this, and their email will only be a link to where then when they click the link, they will see our actual theme of the form. I choose to just include it in the email. It also does give a copy of that link. But you can see we can also share this form via Google+, Facebook, and Twitter. So we've got a lot of these are brand new features of Google Forms. You also can embed a form, and we'll talk about that in Google Sites. We're able to embed forms on a site as well. So let's go ahead, give them a couple minutes to fill out this form. I will actually send that form to my work email as well. That way I can fill it out just in case my colleagues aren't able to. All right, so we can see right here we have responses too. If we select responses, we can do summary of responses. We can also view responses as well. If we want to change our response destination so we don't want it to go to that spreadsheet anymore, we can do that as well. So this is where we can see those nice little charts and graphs that I was talking about earlier. If we view the responses, this is going to take us to our spreadsheet. So you can see that my colleague Tina filled this out. Then we can see myself, and I'll go ahead and I'll actually fill out the form one more time. That way you can see a better representation. So you can see right here, I just submitted this under Waldo, and you can see that that came in instantly, and we can see that come in instantly on the spreadsheet. If we go to form, You can see we can go to edit our form from the spreadsheet. We can still send the form from our spreadsheet. We can go to the live form, or we can go to the summary of responses. Just as a reminder, the summary of the responses, those are actually those charts and graphs. So you can see that Forms will automatically collect that data for you, and it'll organize the data as well. So that actually, oh, here we go. We have Mighty Mouse. So you can see forms are actually really easy to use. We can get to that data from within the spreadsheet or from within the form itself. We can share it out using just the link, kind of like we did with our documents. We can just type in that link to someone's chat window, and they can easily fill out the form there as well. You can even do a form almost as if it was like an order form as well. Say it was like a work request. There's endless different ways that you can use Google Forms. So I want to go ahead and open the floor up to any questions on Google Forms. So if any of our conference rooms have questions, feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself and chime in. Or if any of you are joining the training from your desk, feel free to raise your hand. I can also unmute you.
Hi, Courtney. This is David. The old forms that we used under the old one, I take it they still work?
Yes, the old forms will still work. I've still got some old forms as well. They just changed it within the past, I'd say like 2 days. It's really nice now.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Can you hear me, Courtney?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we got a few questions. I know before, it looks like they've changed a lot of the options you can do in forms now. It used to be that you couldn't filter or sort results on the forms, like on the spreadsheet. Is that still the case now?
Yeah, because the spreadsheet should still work the same as what it's always done. Because all it's doing is taking your answers from forms to the spreadsheet. So you should still have the same availability. From what I read from directly from Google, the only thing that they've really changed on forms, they've obviously changed the layout of forms, but the functionality is still there. And really the only thing that they've adjusted is now you can collaborate, and they've added a couple different shortcuts. But the main functionality of forms is still there.
Okay, can you try something for me while you got that up?
Yeah.
Like, click on one of the headings on the row 1, and then go up to data, and then, see how it has it grayed out, sort sheet, and all that, so you can't do that.
Oh, I will have to check on that. Okay, so data, the sort sheet.
Yeah, or, see, it looks like the filter is available. Can you try that?
Yep.
Then try and filter or something.
So then we can sort A to Z, sort Z to A.
You used to not be able to do that. Another thing was, let's say you wanted to go back and modify your form, and you would move something, like say the bottom question, you moved it up to the top.
Okay.
Your formatting in the spreadsheet wouldn't change, but it would kind of, that would be annoying a little bit. I don't know if there's a way to do that.
Let me see here. So we've switched it up. We can see right here all changes saved in Drive. So let's go ahead, open the spreadsheet again. So it looks like it does still keep it in that original order.
Yeah, that was just kind of an annoyance, but still, it's okay. And you used to not be able to share forms with people that didn't have a Google account. Is that still the case?
You should be able to, if you keep it embedded within like the email, even if they don't have a Google account, they still should be able to fill out the form, especially when you're leaving it directly in the email account.
Okay, that must be new because it was probably 6 months ago or something. We were trying to do that for customer service to send a customer's, results back, and we couldn't get it to work. And I called in Dido support, and they said it's not possible yet.
Okay,
Maybe.
because Tina, my colleague Tina, she actually was able to embed a form on her wedding website. And instead of sending out RSVPs, she actually had them fill out the form as an RSVP. And she was sending it to people without Google accounts. So I will actually, I'll talk to Tina about that to see if she did anything special.
Okay. Maybe the part that it said you got to collect the username. Remember those check boxes?
Yes.
Maybe that was said or something. And that would require a Google account, I would imagine.
Yes, it actually will make it to where only your domain can do it. To where I
Oh,
send it out to like even my colleagues. I'm on my domain right now. If we look, it's Dido LLC. However, our actual domain that we get receive our work email from is Dido Web. So I have to uncheck that in order to be able to share it just with my colleagues on the other domain, just to get those sample results. So if you forget to uncheck it, yeah, I've made that mistake before. I'm like, wait, why can't anybody fill out my form? It's easy to do. But yeah,
um,
right now it's just moved right up here.
okay. Another question is it possible to take form data that's been collected and then pull that data into another form? So, for example, what we wanted to do at one time was we have a purchase requisition system that's all paper-based, and we wanted to create a form. A user would fill out, everything, the price, the part number, yada, yada, yada. It would get submitted to a spreadsheet. Somebody would have to approve that, and we thought that we could do through notifications that it would email like the purchasing manager or financial controller. And once it got approved, then it could populate another part of the form. So when the user that originally submitted the form goes back and he looks at his form, he can see that he got approved or denied. I know it's kind of complex, but it's just as a basic thing, can you take that data and put it somewhere else, like in another form from a spreadsheet? You understand? It's a little confusing. You still there?
Oh, sorry, it looks like I hit my headset. Um,
Oh,
can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay, so what I can do is I'll talk to one of our guys that does the Google scripting, and I'll see if it's possible to if he can write a script to do that. I'll check into that for you because it looks like it might be something beyond just the regular capabilities of Form, but there's a lot of different automation that you can do when doing those unique Google scripts. So I'll talk to Steve or James on that, and I'll see if that's something that's even possible if we can tweak forms to do that.
Okay.
So I'll just have an email thread between you and I, and we can kind of figure it out, and I'll talk to them about it.
I think we already did it one time about a year ago. They got us a quote. I don't know what happened to it, but
Well, I'll double check with them.
okay. Now, users, if they fill out a form, they can go back and edit their results too. I didn't know they could do that.
Yes, that's yeah. Well, that's only if you check it. If you check allow responders to edit responses after submitting, they can go back in and change their answer.
How do they do that? Do they just go to the same link and it just remembers that they?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. It's really. I think it's weird, personally. I'm like, all right, you submitted it. Why do you need to go back and change it? But Depends on what you're doing. I guess if you had like a spelling error, you could go back and fix your spelling error because you can do like a paragraph question to where I think that's really what would come into play is if you were doing like the paragraph and you noticed you misspelled something, then you can go back in and you can just edit your response.
Well, here's an example that we tried to do with our engineering department. Say a user fills out a form because a piece of equipment went down. It would notify the engineers. Somebody from the engineering department can open up the spreadsheet, and then in a section, like they could put comments or whatever in one of the cells that they fixed it. And then let's say that person who originally filled out the form could go back and see their responses, then they'd see the response that the engineer put in there. Does that kind of make sense? Kind of like a help desk ticket system.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably too complicated to use forms for that, but I was just wondering if that's possible.
Okay, so I want to show you real quick an example of how you can edit it, just so you can kind of see what that looks like. Okay, so if I pull up my link to our form and I just fill it out really quick. After I select submit, it's going to see optional. You can see my previous responses since I've filled out that form a couple different times, or I can edit my responses.
Okay, so if they lose that link right there, then they
Yep,
wouldn't have any. Okay, so it's important that
yep.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you look in, I've gone through and I've just edited it myself a couple different times, and it's
Uh-huh.
added me as a new person. So the only way that they can edit it is if they have that link.
Okay. All right, that's all I got.
Okay.
Anybody
Well,
else have anything?
Jeff, we can meet later and we can talk about forms and see if we can, figure out some other different options. I can even bring in some of my training department to see if they know of anything too, just to kind of have forms fit your needs a little bit more.
Now, are you going to go into the nested forms too?
I'm sorry, what?
By that, are you going to go into the nested forms, like where you have multiple forms and like it's one big form, but you have different pages?
I wasn't going to go through that. That's normally not something we do in like just when we're talking about forms right now. I was going to move into Google Sites. Um,
Okay. Well, if we have time, maybe, because that was interesting to some people too.
okay.
Like you could have multiple, buttons at the bottom that would take you to a specific part of that form. So it would appear like you're filling out one form, but then you hit a button at the bottom and it would take you to another form. And it was all on one big form, but it appeared like it was multiple forms.
Okay. I'm not actually sure.
Like, go, if you're in editing mode here, go, like, I think if you hover above or below one of the, like, you could do, I think it was like an insert,
Like a page break, and then you go ahead and do another form.
it was section header, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. Yeah, and then like maybe part two.
Okay. Okay, so what you would do is you go to insert section header, because page break would just be like a line. So section header, then let's go ahead and let's view our live form. So then you can see we have the first question, then we have part 2, and then the second part.
No, that's not exactly what I was thinking. Maybe it did involve the page breaks, because it made it appear like you had multiple forms, but you could go back and forth. Like it would have like a next page kind of thing at the bottom. It's been a while since I did it, but and it would link it to.
Oh, right here. It is the
Yeah.
page break. Continue to next page.
Yeah, there you go. And then you could actually, if you had more than one, you could go right back to the, one that you had already filled out.
Perfect. All right, so in order to go to the next page, we're going to insert a page break, and that makes it to where we can go to the next page. Section header is just going to make it to where we can go ahead and put different sections or portions to the form.
Okay.
Perfect.
That's it.
Okay, great. Well, then let's go ahead. We'll go on to Google Sites. We'll do a quick overview of Google Sites, and then we can open the floor for more questions. So I'll go ahead and I'll mute you guys back. And then if you have any questions, you can just unmute yourself. So next we're going to go ahead and we're just going to talk about Google Sites. We're going to talk about editing the sidebar and navigation, sharing and collaborating on your sites, and adding media. And I'll actually show you a couple quick examples of some sites as well. So in order to get to sites, we can simply go from our universal navigation bar, and then we can select sites. So Sites is just an application, and it makes building a website for your organization or for like even different departments really easy. It's like editing a document. You don't have to know HTML to build a Google site. So this can be great. We have definitely used Google Sites. We have a Dido site, which has our handbook, stuff for new employees. And then we also have different team sites. So we have our training team, deployment team, and it can be nice because you can quickly gather a variety of information in one place. And you also can get information from Google Apps, like Docs. You can insert a doc, calendars, Picasa, which is like a photo like slideshow. And sites are really easy to share and publish. So let's go ahead and look at our sites basics. So when we click on sites, you can see it's going to bring us to our main sites page. We can see my sites that I've made in my organization, deleted sites, or we can browse sites. So this is going to be where our list of sites that we've created are. So right now I just have one. It's a Google Sites test, but I'm going to go through and we're actually going to look at creating sites. So if we select create, you can see that we're going to have a lot of different options. You can see that we can do it from a template and we can browse the template gallery. Now, there's actually hundreds of template options. They're ranging from public-facing business sites, work portfolios, to intranets, training sites, pages for clubs, upcoming events. Each template is going to feature a topic-specific layout. So I'll go ahead and click that just so you can kind of see an example of the templates. So you can see here, these are our public sites. We've got the business, schools and educations, clubs, personal. If we click on featured sites, you can see that this is what Google's featuring right now. So basically, we would get a pre-built site all ready for us, and then we can just swap out the information. We can even preview the template as well. So you can see here, this would be an example of the classroom site. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're actually going to not do a site. We're going to do it from a blank template. You can see here as I'm naming the site, it's going to automatically do our URL for us as well. If we select a theme, we have a lot of different themes that Google has came up for us. So I'm going to go ahead and just select a nice simple theme. You can give your site a theme, but you can also get into different customization of the theme once you are within sites. So we can actually start with a theme, but we can end up changing it to be something completely different. If we continue scrolling down, we then have more options. So this would be if we wanted to give our site a category, which is great for searching, and a site description. So we're going to go up and just select Create Site. And it's going to go ahead and create the site for us. So when we first start out, we're basically going to get a home page, we're going to get a site map, and we're going to get a sidebar. So we're basically starting out with a blank page. So let's go ahead. We're going to look at how to create a page and how to add content to pages. And then we can go through managing the site, such as like the layout and navigation. So let's go ahead and add a new page. We're just simply going to click the page with the plus sign. You can see here we can name our page. And then we have different templates that we can use. We have our web page. Web page, that's the simplest kind of page. We can just write content, embed gadgets. We can arrange it however we like. It basically was our home page. Announcements, this is going to be a lot like a blog. It's going to display posts you can make to the page, and it'll display them in chronological order, starting with the most recent. File Cabinet's actually really interesting. File Cabinet lets you store and organize files from your computer's hard drive. It's really an easy way to share files with other users of your site. Then we have List, and that just lets you make a list and organize lists of information. And then we have a Start page. So that can be customized by each of its viewer to show a personalized set of gadgets. Site collaborators, they can add content and basically change what all of the viewers are seeing, but the section remains separate from the section that can be personalized. So let's go ahead. We'll do a file cabinet just so you can see an example of what a file cabinet is. You can see that we can put that at the top level, or if we wanted to make a subpage, we can make a subpage as well. So you can see here we can easily go ahead. I can add a file. So I'll go ahead and just add a quick picture. You can see here then somebody can view or download. You can also add a link. You have a lot of different options. You can see here, if we do a list, we have a lot of different templates that we can choose from as well. I like that you can track a project's open issues and you can create a list that way. So let's go ahead and just look at editing a page real quick. Now that we've seen how we can easily add those pages, if we want to edit, we're simply going to select the pencil. From here, we can go ahead and just start typing. You can see that we have our formatting up here. We can change the font. Now, I want to point out that there's only a couple different fonts available, but we actually can use web fonts. So you can see here, it's google.com/web fonts, and I'll go ahead and I will put that in the chat window as well. But this is going to show you all of those different fonts that you can use. If we select Quick Use, you can see that it's actually going to give us the HTML to add this to our website. So you can see here, if I wanted to go to my HTML, I can go ahead and I can change the font using that HTML. So it would just be simple copying and pasting in order to change that. If we go to insert, we can insert a lot of different things. We can go ahead, we can insert an image, we can insert a link, we can insert a map. So say we needed a map to our business, we're able to do a map. This Picasa photo, I'll show you a little bit later, but I have done where we have the web slideshow. You can also insert a presentation, a spreadsheet, we can insert a form, or we can even insert a video. So we can even insert a YouTube video. Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and I'll just as an example, insert a calendar. So you can see here, it's going to talk with basically my Google Calendar. I can insert my Courtney at Dido LLC calendar right here, or say I had a training team calendar. I can insert a team calendar as well. Then you can see it's going to give us different examples. So we can go ahead, we can change the pixel size, we can change the display options, we can choose a time zone, we can choose the view of the calendar, we can even title the calendar. So now when anybody views my website, they will actually be able to see the calendar. Right now, since we're in edit mode, it's not going to show us the calendar. But if we went to the live website, we could see the live version of my calendar, and I'll show you guys that as well. But so inserting images, we can insert calendars, we can even insert Google Docs. Now, if you are going to insert a Google document, I just want to let you know that you will want to set that to where it can be viewed by public. If you are making a public site and you do not have that document shared out with that person who is viewing your site, they will actually not be able to see the document. So if you don't have the doc set as public and the person visiting doesn't have the doc shared with them, they're not going to be able to see it. You can see here we also can insert gadgets, and gadgets are actually something really different. We can go ahead and include, they're basically HTML or JavaScript applications that can be embedded in web pages. Gadgets have the ability to include external and dynamic content within your site. We can do like mini applications, database driven lists, so on and so forth as well. So you can see here if we select more gadgets, we can add a gadget to our page. So you can see we have the official Google Calendar gadget, a Twitter widget, YouTube. There's a lot of different gadgets that we can add, even PayPal. So moving across, next to insert, we have format. So you can see we can adjust different formatting. We can adjust our alignment, our paragraphs. If we go to table, we can insert a table. And if we go to layout, we can change the layout of our site. So you can see if I want to have a 3-column site, 2-column site, but I still want that header, I'm able to do that as well. Right now, we just have a simple 1-column site. So moving on, let's go ahead and look at the More option. If we select More, you can see we can see our revision history. This just allows us to go back in time to another version, similar to the revision history in Dux. We can subscribe to page changes. So if you're the owner of the site and you've shared this site with others, they can subscribe to page changes. It's a really good way to keep up to speed with what's being done with the site. So say you're using this for your company and you're changing one of your policies and you have that policy on the site. If your users are subscribed to changes, they'll be notified and they can easily see that policy change. We actually have, we subscribe to pages for Dido as well. From here, we can save our page as a template. So if we're going to be creating, say, department sites, we can go ahead and save a department site template and then give that to a different department site. We can edit our site layout. When we select edit, this basically allows us to enable and disable different parts. So this is our header. Instead of having this sidebar navigation, we can do horizontal navigation. We can do a custom footer, and we can also change our site width. We can also manage the site, and we'll look at that in a little bit later as well. And we also have our page settings. So if we click on page settings, this is where we really can basically edit what is shown on our page. So we have our page title. We have our link to sub pages. We can allow attachments. We can allow comments as well. So if I select save, you can see that it's going to update my site to where now if I wanted to add a file to my site, I can do that. Or I can allow people to add comments to the site as well. So let's go ahead and look at Manage Site, and we're just going to work our way down the options. So we have our recent site activity, and this just displays activity. It's for the entire site rather than the entire page, like revision history. So revision history is per page. Recent site activity is the whole entire site. We then can view our pages, and we can drag and move our pages in the order. We have our attachments. You can see I added that printer to our file page. All of the attachments are going to be stored here as well. We have page templates. So we've already gone over page templates, but this is where we can go ahead and change our page templates as well. We have app scripts, and that's just JavaScripts. You most likely aren't going to be getting into app scripts, but it's just JavaScript cloud scripting languages. It just provides easy ways to automate tasks across Google products and like third-party services. We then have our deleted items. So this is going to be any files or images, any type of media that we've deleted off of the page. We have our general settings. So here we have our site description. We can see we can adjust our site categories. We can change our landing page. We can copy this site, publish this site as a template, delete this site. We can do statistics to where we can see who has been, how many hits we've had on one page, who's visited that page, so on. We can change our page language. And this is really great. If you want to adjust the site to where if somebody's visiting it on a mobile phone, we can select that and it'll change the width of the site to where people can use it on an iPad, on an iPhone, on an Android device. You also can change the access settings as well. So you can see we can change who can access the site activity and who can access the revision history. So then if we go to our sharings and permission, this is just who can find the site and if we want to collaborate with colleagues on the site. So you can see right now I have it set to where anybody at Dido Training can access the site. I can change that. I can make it to public so anybody on the web is able to access my site. I can also change it to anyone with the link can access the site as well. You can see here, anybody within my organization can edit this site. Now, if I don't want that to happen, I can change that to where they can just view it. So we then have AdSense, and this most likely is something that you're not going to want to do. This is just adding ads to your website. As you can see, you can earn revenue. Oh, one thing in sharing and permission, I do want to point out that you can turn on page level permissions. So if I turn on page level permissions, you can actually control people's permission for each page of the website. So if I go ahead and turn on my page level permissions, I can go ahead and I can choose on this page, I can allow my colleague Tina to have editing rights, but she can only access this page as opposed to the whole website. So site layout, this is actually where we can change our navigation. As you can see, we've redesigned the site layout experience. When we edited the layout and we're turning off and on the headers on our actual site, we can also access it from here as well. You can see that we can add a sidebar item. This is where we can add page elements. We can add our navigation. We can add text, recent site activity. We can even add a countdown. So say we have a countdown to a certain event, or even say to the end of the quarter or the end of a project, we can add a countdown. The one used most is just navigation. So we have navigation already added to our sidebar right now. So from here, we can basically just change the site layout. We can change our header. We can change the sizes of the header. You can see we can do a lot of different things. We can even add our logo. So if you are making a company site, you can use a logo. You can add your logo. You can change the logo size to where it will appear on that header as well. So you can see here, I can change logo, choose a file. Let's see, that might not work. We'll go ahead and just select this right here, and we'll have our custom logo. Now below here, we actually have colors and fonts. This is where you really can begin to customize your pages. You can change the fonts and colors. You can change your background color, link color, font color. You can customize your whole website right here. So as I mentioned before, we started out with this theme, but we don't have to stick to this theme. You can change, we can change the page color. We can select custom. We can select the page color rather than having that image. We can do a background image. We can change the page font. So if I select custom and then I drop down here, it's actually going to give me a lot of different options. Here we go. Sorry about that. It looks like there's just a tad bit of a delay. Here we go. So you can see here, we can add those web fonts, but if we go into our manage site and go into our page font, we can actually choose a lot of different types of fonts. It's going to give us a lot more options. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to select that. You can see it's going to change on our website right here. If we change our page link color, it's going to change our links that people can actually click. You can see we can adjust the site header. We can adjust the content area. And then we can even adjust the gadgets. So you can see this is a section that's really going to allow us to customize our sites. We can even change our theme directly from here. Or we can go ahead and just simply select themes. So you can see our site has customizations and colors, so it's going to be different than Rounders, but we can revert to a different theme. So as you can see, it's really simple to go ahead and create a Google site. I mentioned earlier that my colleague Tina had made her own Google site for her wedding. This is Tina's Google site. I'm going to go ahead and find the contact us. Let me find where, oh, here it is, RSVP. So this is actually her form. And it looks like something went home. Oh, okay. So since her wedding is already passed, they're no longer accepting RSVPs. But this is just a great example of how you can create a Google site. She just found this template and she went ahead. You can see here, this is the map gadget that I was talking about earlier, to where you can do a map to where people can easily get a directions to, say, your company. I mentioned earlier that we have those Picasa slideshows as well. So if you do have Picasa, you're able to put a slideshow directly on your website as well. So if you look here, we can go through and we can see different slideshows. And this is an example. Instead of having that sidebar navigation, this is an example of just the horizontal navigation as well. So that is actually Google Sites in a nutshell. And I know our webinar is supposed to end at noon. It looks like we've got about 4 or 5 minutes for questions. So I want to go ahead and I just want to open the floor for any questions as well. Hey, Jeff, any questions in your room?
Yep.
Perfect.
Hey, yeah, I just had a question about that file cabinet. What's the capacity for the site on those files?
Okay, I'm sorry. I had a hard time hearing you. What was the question about the file cabinet? I'm going to turn up my speaker.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just wondering, what's the capacity of the file size, or how many files?
How many files in the file cabinet?
Yeah, or the file size of each file, or total file size. Anyway, yeah.
To my knowledge, you should be able to just put in as many files as you want. I can search and see if there's actually a file limit, but Google Sites, I don't think that there's an actual limit for it.
Okay.
Let me see storage and file limits in Google Help or Google Sites. It looks like 100 megabytes per site. So it looks like that's how many 100 megabytes per site is going to be the file limits. For Google Apps, there is, let's see, 10 gigabytes. So if you're inserting like the calendar or like a Google document, it looks like you are able to do 10 gigabytes. And Google Apps for Business, which is what you guys have, is 10 gigabytes plus 500 megabytes per each paid user.
Okay. Is there a limit how many sites a company can have?
No, how many sites you guys can have is unlimited.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and I'll put that resource in the chat window just so you guys can look at that on your own as well. Let's find chat. All right, so I went ahead and I uploaded that resource in the chat window as well. But the file cabinet's great. I mean, we can technically do a ton of Google Docs on there as well.
I remember one time we had worried about running out of space, but there was no way to tell how much we were using. Is that an option they've added lately?
See how much space you're using on your Google Sites?
Yeah. Like, say you're 99 meg and you're about ready to hit 100. You know, how can you tell how close you are to going over?
Let me see here.
I know at one time they said they couldn't do it, but that was like 6 months ago or a year ago.
Yeah, because on Drive it nicely tells you how much your quota is. Let's see here.
I had to call in to Dido support, and they could tell me somehow, but they couldn't provide it for me to just see. It's kind of weird. But
Yeah, no, I agree. Because you would think it would be an option. Let's see. I will double check on that to see if they've made that available yet.
okay.
Because I know that would be totally helpful.
Yeah. Anybody else got any questions? Okay, we don't have any more questions.
Okay, I'll check in on Tom's conference room and see if they have any questions.
Okay.
Hey, Tom. Any questions in you guys' room?
This is David. No,
Oh,
we don't have
David.
any up here.
Oh, David, I got your name wrong. I'm sorry. I don't know what I was
That's all right.
thinking. Okay, well, great. Well, then I'll go ahead and thank you guys for joining our webinar. Jeff, I'll get back to you on those questions that I was not able to answer. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and a good weekend.
All right, thanks, Courtney.